Hi, Renato. Good to see you again.
Hi, Kirti.
So what should we talk about today?
I don't know. How about innovation?
Right, that's great, great.
Yeah, it's a topic that comes up all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got into this stuff of talking about innovation. I heard once that innovation is like teenage sex.
Really? Yeah.
Everybody talks about it, but nobody does it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's in this industry, I think that's especially true.
Yeah, I remember I did once a workshop in Amsterdam for the ELIA conference, and I did some reading about innovation. There's lots of literature about that, but one of the things that stuck with me was the fact that innovation always comes from outside the traditional industry players, because the industry players tend to want to maintain the status quo. Once they find the formula, they want to milk that formula until the end. Milengo is guilty of that model of having the traditional supply chain and working with existing software.
Actually, that's true for a lot of industries. I was just thinking when you were speaking, IBM was mainframes, and Microsoft came along. A guy without a college degree, with nothing, took over the PC market, and then Google came along, and completely shocked Microsoft. Changed the world for them.
Well, and the thing has to do with what's the purpose, right? And Google, I think, is one of the key innovators for the translation industry, because they're not concerned about translation. Right,
they're not looking to make money. There's no invested. There's no.
Their business is not translation.
Right. They're not worried about cannibalization, which is a reason why IBM was worried. We don't want to go to PCs because then we'll make less money on mainframes. And Microsoft said that, well, we have this Office stuff. Why do you want to go to the web? Let's just keep it. Let's keep telling everyone that Office and PCs is where it actually.
Yeah.
And so it's that fear to cannibalize or to challenge your own business is, I think, one of the reasons why companies don't innovate very easily. That outsiders have to come in.
So I mentioned Google because of Google Translate and Google Translator Toolkit. So they're essentially, and when we talk to the people at Google, what they say, we don't care about the translation technology in itself. What we want is a technology that allows people to read more information, access more data, do more search, and put more ads. So their revenue model is ads. So they want language in order to show more advertising to more people in different countries and all over the world. So that's their motivation for that. Do you see anybody else from outside bringing? Well, Asia Online is a good example.
Well, Asia Online's mission originally was also to out Google in some parts of the world, like in Korea. There's a Korean company called Naver that most people have not heard of that has kept Google to less than a 2% market share in Korean language search. And Naver has enough dominance in that market with just 65 million people.
Yeah.
And
it's among the most technology
internet savvy countries in the world, and it's got a $10 billion valuation. There's nothing in the language industry that approaches that. And when I met Dion, what he wanted to do, he was not concerned at all about translation per se. He came to Language River to say that you do this translation stuff for me. I don't want to do it, and it didn't work out. So he decided to do it himself, and now he has this translation infrastructure, and the objective is to make massive amounts of content available that no one else has.
Yeah,
and through that create an advertising model. So basically the same kind of thing that Google did. Just lots of content that you can't find anywhere else, and you have to search through the Asia Online stuff. And I think that's why there's so much innovation in the Asia Online approach to machine translation.
Yeah, another company. I don't know how it works and but I've read a lot about Madcap. They do web content management, and they have a translation management module. And I'm very impressed. It's like their service is essentially to provide content management, web content, and people want to have that in multiple languages, and they have a translation management suite of translation management component in their solution. And from what I looked, the prices are very, very low. I'd love to do an analysis, do a pilot project with that technology. I've recommended that to a few clients, but we haven't picked that up yet.
Right.
So if you're watching and listening and you use MedCap, write me an email.
Yeah, no, I was at a red herring event that Asia Online won, whatever the top 50 companies or whatever in the industry, emerging companies. And MadCap was there too, and they had a very interesting story. They had no interest in the multilingual aspects, but then when they started seeing it come, they adapted to it very easily, very quickly, and they had really strong traction.
And they have no history.
Right, they have no history. So
that's the innovation comes from people who look at the problem from a different angle.
Right.
And we should expect people that come from the outside and say, and not, why do you do this stuff? I spend a lot of time talking to translators, to translation companies and technology companies in this industry, especially with my past at Common Sense Advisory. People want to know why we do and what is the best process, what is the best way. And the question that I always want to ask, and this is the question that I ask my team at Milengo is, why not? Why can't we do it differently? Why can't we completely ignore what has been done until now and look at this like a 4-year-old, like a child that has no bias, no knowledge, and will ask stupid questions, right? And this is where I think we need more in this space.
I think one aspect is to look at the problem differently. Or the other thing is just to look at a new problem. Just a completely new problem. So that's what Google did, that's what Microsoft did. IBM was not looking at the PC thing as it was it's a baby computer, it doesn't really do real work, we don't need to do that. And even though Gates realized that the internet was something serious and was going to be a big deal, and the browser was a big deal.
It took him a while.
They did not really look at the right problem. They kept looking at how do we make Office
How do we sell more licenses?
So I think the new problem for the translation industry, if we're looking at innovation, people are used to doing projects. The new thing is just a fire hose of information coming at you. How do you handle that? You have to do things differently.
It's the streaming
Right.
It's how information happens today. We communicate every day through Twitter and Facebook.
So we communicate so many times. Because I know that you're in Twitter a lot. I'm in Twitter a lot. I don't need to call you.
Exactly.
So we can do things much more efficiently.
The communication becomes asynchronous, but very efficient, and it's a great way to maintain this flow of content that is coming from all over the world. We were following the World Cup a few months ago on this stuff, and
Brazil should not have lost. Those guys, no, they played terrible. They would start kicking the players. What kind of game was that?
It was terrible. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about innovation. But anyway, I'll see you next time, and we can find some other interesting topic for our conversation.